Welcome, everyone, to Rutgers at the Voice of College Football. Hope you're all doing well. We're coming to you tonight on a Friday night for a special edition of Rutgers Live, the Voice of College Football, to provide you with some recruiting updates. If you like the show, please hit that like and subscribe button. We will, of course, be broadcasting every Monday at 7 p.m. and look forward to your calls and comments. So what's going on with Rutgers recruiting? After a disappointing 7-6 season and loss to Kansas State in the Rate Bowl 44-41. Well, for Scarlet Knight fans, we've got some good news. Let's start out with 2025. So far, Rutgers ranked 34th in the country in recruiting. Composite rank 31st in the country. Transfer rank 46th in the country. Thus far, 27 players have signed letters of intent. That includes 2 4-stars and 25 3-stars. So let's give a bit of context to this recruiting analysis. We know that Rutgers last year suffered a tremendous amount of injuries on defense, and they've also suffered losses due to graduation. So, especially on the defensive line and the secondary, Rutgers needs bigger players, faster players, physical players, and thus far, they've done a good job in getting us there. So let's look at this. We know that Daryl Jabome is returning, the leading tackler for Rutgers. Mohamed Toure, who's coming back, he's coming back next year after missing the season with a torn ACL. Okay, but Rutgers has had to revamp its defensive line. And they need size and experience, and so far they have gotten it, particularly because Aaron Lewis is out of eligibility, Wesley Bailey has transferred to Louisville, and Keontae Hamilton and Malcolm Ray are also out of eligibility, as is Troy Rainey. So they have a lot of people to replace on defense, and through the transfer portal and in recruiting, they have done just that. So who have they gotten, and what does this mean for the Scarlet Knights in 2025? Let's start out with the defensive end position. Bradley Weaver from Ohio University, 6'4", 262 pounds, 44 tackles, 15 for loss, and 8.5 sacks this season for Ohio. And against Syracuse, had 5 tackles and 1 sack. He comes to Rutgers and will likely start at the defensive end position. Another defensive end for Rutgers, Eric O'Neill, coming to us from James Madison. Last year, 52 tackles, 18.5 tackles for loss, 13 sacks, and 1 interception and 3 pass breakups. And then we have Daryl Dengoa from James Madison, 6'2", 290 pounds, 28 tackles, 6 for loss. We have another defensive tackle, Doug Blue Eli, coming to us from South Florida, 6'2", 315, 37 tackles the last 2 seasons, 5 for loss, and 1 year of eligibility remaining. Okay, so Coach Schiano has done a fantastic job of rebuilding and revamping that defensive line. And with the size, the experience, and the physicality that he's bringing to Rutgers is going to be formidable next year on the defensive side of the ball, particularly because they've also got some great additions in the secondary. Let's start with Cam Miller from the Nittany Lions of Penn State. Cam Miller, 6 foot, 183 pounds, started 4 games for the Nittany Lions this year, 27 tackles, 5 pass breakups in 16 games. That is a great get for the Scarlet Knights. We also have from the Marshall Thundering Herd, Jacoby Henderson, 5'11", 191 pounds, 2 years of eligibility remaining, 50 tackles and 2 interceptions for the Thundering Herd this year, 4 tackles against Virginia and Ohio State. Another great addition at the cornerback position for the Scarlet Knights. Then Coach Schiano got us a safety. Who's that safety? Jet Elad from the University of Nevada, not Las Vegas, 6'1", 205, 84 tackles, 5 for loss this season, in addition to 1 sack, 1 interception, and 6 pass breakups. So Coach Schiano has been active and aggressive in getting defensive players with size, speed, and physicality to replace those that we're losing this year. It looks like a promising future for Rutgers on the defensive side. So, not to mention, as I said previously, 31st ranked recruiting class in the country, 2 4-stars, 46th in the country in transfer rank, overall rank 34. Who else is coming to the Scarlet Knights next year? Well, we've got Talibi Kaba from Hillside, New Jersey, a New Jersey product ranked 9th in the state at linebacker, has committed to the Scarlet Knights. Robbie Johnson Jr. From Delaware, the number 1 ranked edge rusher in Delaware, is coming to the Scarlet Knights and is going to really enhance that defensive line. DJ McClary from Jersey City, New Jersey, 10th ranked linebacker in the state, has committed to Rutgers. This is looking like one of the best recruiting classes that Rutgers has had in years. Then we got Braxton Kyle from the great state of Georgia, 62nd ranked defensive lineman, 6'4", 320. And from New Jersey and from my alma mater, Bergen Catholic High School in Oradell, New Jersey, we have Chris Vigna, ranked 16th in interior offensive lineman in New Jersey, 6'5", 295. So among those 27 commits, we've got not only 2 4-stars, but we've got some great players, 3 stars and 4 stars, that are going to shore up that defensive interior and going to create a defense that Coach Schiano, that will be reminiscent of Coach Schiano's defenses in his first stint, namely in 2006. But that's not the end of the story, because we've got to look ahead to 2026 and the recruiting class for 2026. And as good as this class looks for 2025, and I congratulate Coach Schiano and the entire coaching staff, in 2026, we have the seeds of what could be the best recruiting class ever for the Scarlet Knights. So let's look at that recruiting class thus far. 5 commits. 3 of those 5 commits are ESPN 300 commits, and we've got 3 4-star recruits. Now, I've said this on this show repeatedly. For Rutgers to be competitive in the Big Ten and to be competitive nationally, we need to start getting the 4 stars and the 5 stars. Whether it's buying them through the transfer portal, buying them out of high school, whatever it takes, we need to get those 4 and 5 stars to compete with the Ohio States, the Oregons, the Michigans, Texas, Alabama, okay? And in this class, we've already got 3 4-star athletes. The second ingredient is development, because Rutgers, similar to Iowa, recruits a lot of 3 stars. So development is critical, but getting those 4 and 5 stars is also critical, because when you start getting the 4 and 5 stars, you start winning. And when you start winning, other 4 and 5 stars want to come. And when you start developing extremely well and placing players into the NFL, you're building a picture that is going to be very attractive to recruits, because recruits want 3 things: money, success and development, and they want to go to the NFL. Rutgers has to hit the trifecta to be able to do that. And this 2026 recruiting class suggests that they may, in fact, be on their way to doing so. So who's in this recruiting class? Well, let's begin with a 5-star recruit wide receiver. Desir Carter from Louisiana High School in Mineral, Virginia. 6'0", 6 feet, 175 pounds, the 6th ranked wide receiver in Virginia. Now, there's an important development, though, in the Desir Carter story. And, of course, that comes from the University of North Carolina. And Bill Belichick, once again, is sticking his hand in the cookie jar and trying to steal Carter away from Greg Schiano. In fact, less than 24 hours ago, Carter was seen posing for a picture with Belichick. Coach Schiano, you got to keep him. This is a game breaker and a game changer. Carter, if he comes to Rutgers, is going to have a profound impact on that offense. Number two is a 4-star from Harrisburg, Pennsylvania, Harrisburg High School, Elias Koch, 6'3", 190-pound wide receiver, number 5 ranked wide receiver in the great state of Pennsylvania. Number 3, we can't forget about this recruit, a star in the making from Spartanburg, South Carolina, Jalen McGill, Mountain View Prep High School, 5'10", 210 pounds, the number 3 ranked running back in South Carolina. Number 4, from Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, Wydeek Collier, a 3-star from Newman Goretti High School, 6'6", 205 pounds, listed as an athlete. I never did like that designation, which essentially means you can play multiple positions. Well, whatever position Wydeek ultimately plays, he's going to be impressive and have a significant impact and make a significant contribution. And then most recently from Baltimore, Maryland, Chris Hewitt Jr., Calvert Hall College High School, 6 foot, 195 pounds, another athlete who can play multiple positions. So Rutgers has a recruiting class both for 2025 and 2026 that has the potential to transform Rutgers from being mediocre to being a legitimate contender. In 2025, the key things to take away from the recruiting class thus far is the defense. What they have gotten via the transfer portal on defense, they've added size and physicality and experience to the defensive line. And they've added talent in the secondary to compensate for the losses due to graduation and due to injuries. So Coach Schiano, the 2025 recruiting class so far is a tremendous success and bodes well for the Scarlet Knights in the future. The 2006 recruiting class is even more exciting because they have 1 5-star, 2 4-stars, 3 top 300 ESPN commits, and that's a first for Rutgers. And the more 4-stars you get, the more 5-stars you get, the more you're gonna win. The more you develop, the more you're gonna win and place people in the NFL. And the more that you bring in these guys, the more that other 4 and 5 stars are going to want to come to Rutgers. So, not to mention, Rutgers may get through the transfer portal. Georgia offensive lineman Jared Smith, he's visiting Rutgers this weekend. So, you got to give credit where credit is due. Coach Schiano and his staff doing a fantastic job. Because let's think about this. Rutgers had a rough year. Yes, they had a winning record. But they could have been so much better. The injuries really killed them. But it wasn't just the injuries. It was those close losses where they should have won. It was those close losses where 4 or 5 plays decide the game. And in many instances, it went against Rutgers, such as against Nebraska, when they lost 14-7, couldn't punch the ball in from the 2-yard line with 1st and goal. Illinois, when Illinois was at midfield with seconds left and they gave up the game-winning touchdown. UCLA, losing by 3, 35-32. Not to mention the Wisconsin game, where they lost 42-10 and looked lifeless. There were opportunities for victories on the field for Rutgers this year, and they didn't seal the deal. So while it was a respectable season for Rutgers, it was mediocre. And for Scarlet Knights fans, mediocrity should never be acceptable. But what we're seeing through this recruiting class in 2025, let's think about this. 31st in the country, 27 letters of intent, 2 4-stars. Let's look at who they're getting through the transfer portal. Size, physicality, and experience on defense. Speed in the secondary, along with experience. Then when you look ahead to 2026, what do you see? You see 5 recruits already, 2 of whom are 4-stars and 1 of whom is a 5-star. Rutgers is on a path to finally break through, just like they did in that 2006 season, which not only should they want to duplicate again, they should want to exceed and ultimately become a playoff team and a contender in the Big Ten. And, next year, the schedule is not going to be easy for Rutgers. Penn State, Ohio State, Oregon. It's not going to be the same schedule that it was this year. It's going to be much more difficult. But I want to look forward into the future towards 2026 because what Coach Schiano and his staff are building is going to have long-term success and long-term sustainability. And as we look forward to 2026, let's look at that schedule. They're home against the University of Massachusetts. They're away against Boston College. They're home against Howard. They're away against Maryland, Northwestern, and Penn State. Home against Indiana, Michigan, and Michigan State, and Nebraska, and USC. And then they're away at Camp Randall in Wisconsin. 2026 is a manageable schedule. So what I would say to Scarlet Knights fans out there is this. Yes, 2024 was a disappointment. 2025 is probably going to be a difficult year, but the building blocks are in place for Rutgers to be a contender in 2026 and beyond, because it starts with recruiting, and what Schiano has done so far is to bring in a very solid 2025 class and plant the seeds for a 2026 class that could be the best in Rutgers history. So the future for Rutgers looks bright if we just have a little patience. Like I said, 2025, it might be another 6-6 type season, but the trajectory is up. And not only is it up for 2026, but if Schiano keeps putting together these types of recruiting classes, we will be competitive in the Big Ten, and you will see Rutgers with a playoff appearance in 2026 or 27. So for Scarlet Knights fans, the future looks bright. And we've got a long offseason coming up. What we're going to be doing is we're going to be continually discussing Rutgers recruiting, looking at the depth chart, doing individual profiles on the players, and also looking back historically at some of the great victories Rutgers has had and to the future for what we hope will be a college football playoff appearance sooner rather than later. We broadcast every Monday, 7 p.m., and we will continue to do so for the rest of the season. Of course, we will have shows as news breaks, and we hope you're here to watch it and, most importantly, provide your comments and call into the show and support Rutgers Scarlet Knights football as they hopefully will become a contender in the Big Ten and nationally. Thanks so much for joining us. If you've liked the show, hit the like and subscribe button. We'll see you on Monday at 7 p.m.